Hello, I'm Tiny Pirate. Welcome to a tutorial on building ground vehicles in Empyrion Galactic Survival. In addition to looking at how to build them, we'll cover some tips and tricks around the ways to optimize them, things to avoid, and dispel perhaps a couple of myths. So, let's get on with it. I've laid out here a whole bunch of these basic starter blocks for vehicles. You can discover them yourself by, well, you can build them by heading to any kind of constructor here. Where are you? Of course. Oh, no, there they are. So, ground vehicle starter, it's 8 hull blocks, a core and a hover engine, not especially difficult to build. And when you do build one, you'll be able to place it down. And you get a little block like this. And as you can see, it's got an arrow showing you which way the craft intends to go. And from there, you need to build stuff, do stuff with it. The first thing you need to do is lay down a cockpit. And your cockpits are always going to be larger than your blocks. So what I'm going to do is just lay out a few more blocks here. Make it a little bit longer to fit the most simple of cockpits. And that is the, which one is this one? Cockpit 4, which is the most slimline cockpit. We'll throw the other cockpits on things so you can all have a look at them. And I'm just going to plop it there. That will not get you a working vehicle yet, obviously. Pressing power does nothing. It won't work. It's not going to work until we add some features. Interestingly, we don't actually have to add that many features at all. The first thing I'm going to do is grab a generator. I'll pop that there. I'll just drag this cockpit over here. I'm going to need a fuel tank. Give me a fuel tanks. Do need a fuel tank. This is the minimum spec required, and I need a normal thruster. The blue square ones are the ones you want for your ground vehicles. Tiny blue square. You can see at the top of the inventory there's a little key there that tells you that. So let's chuck on our generator. Yeah, right in the middle there seems ideal. Chuck on an engine. Pop it at the back, why not? There we go. Fuel tank. Where should we pop it? Right about, that'll do. And now, let me quickly acquire some fuel from the creative menu. So, right, we've got that sorted. Fuel. Shift click it. There we go. Full up. Now, believe it or not, that is all you need for a working vehicle. It will not be the best vehicle in the world, and I will show you why. It can't turn. It can't even slow down. It just drifts across the landscape. If I power it off, it will grind to a halt. It has no directional control. Perhaps not the most useful vehicle. And once it's powered on, I can give it a little push. Give me a vehicle. Stop. Stop drifting. Stop. Stop running me over. Can I get... Come back. Come back. Come here. Stop. Can I get in you? Come on. Okay, power off. And yeah. Let's leave that one alone. That is the minimum spec required for a working ground vehicle. We're a bit of a distance from the other vehicle, so let's fix it up so it's working. Perhaps it's working a little bit more usefully, eh? So the component that will help you steer is an RCS for ground vehicles. Let's see what it's called. RCS, there you go. Pretty straightforward. It applies torque for turning. And I haven't noticed the need to ever use more than one of these. Now if I power on, I can turn with the mouse. Yay. Never noticed the need for more than one of these. Even on quite large vehicles, one seems plenty fine. When I'm driving the vehicle, I can use space to go up a little bit. And I can use C to go down a bit. Just sort of notches up and down a touch. And shift space makes you kind of boost up in the air and you see the booster stats go down. Now, the only problem with flying a vehicle with this configuration is I don't actually have much control. I start sliding this way and it's like a hockey puck. It doesn't matter if I turn around, I'm not really going to have terribly much control at all. Bong. I think this configuration in a multiplayer game would be pretty funny for some races. Because you'd have to be like burning opposite to your direction of thrust to get yourself to go around corners, stuff like that. Whee! Good times. Whoa, okay, slow down. Enough playing. Okay, enough playing. Alright, so let's power off so we stop. So how do we get this thing to have some kind of directional control? Well, that's where thrusters come in. Directional thrusters. So we'll put this over here and put in some thruster directional. The ones with the blue square for ground vehicles. First thing is, if you want to be really cheap, you can just get away with one of these. I'm just going to plop it on the front. The ugliest vehicle known to man. There we go. Put it on. Now when I power up, I go forward, take the finger off, and the vehicle slows down because it's a bit impossible to see, but if I hop out of the vehicle, you can see that the front of the vehicle, that engine is running. And I'm going to have to just jump up here in creative and hop back in. Okay, so it does give me now forward and back control. Still slips and slides and won't strafe at all. I'm smacking A and D, not going anywhere. So some kind of strafing powers would be helpful. And I think this is especially true if you ever intend to take on some of the artifact locations in this planet. They're pretty lethal. At least that's what my Let's Play suggests. So we're going to put one directional thruster going left. And let me have a quick look. One directional thruster going right. Pretty ugly. But, whoops, I always do that. Wrong button. Y key. I can now side slip. And if I go left and right, you can see I've got this kind of little slidey slippy thing going on, and I can strafe. So I think if you're taking on big towers, in a spaceship or a ground vehicle, some kind of strafey powers would be good. As you can see at the bottom, it's got my speed is currently hovering around about 24 meters a second sideways. And when I go forwards, this weight of craft will get up to about 24 and a half meters a second as well. But what you might notice is acceleration is not the greatest. So, if we're looking down this line here, and we go sideways as fast as I can. Okay, we hit all the trees. Takes a little bit to get going faster. So the easiest way to solve that... Okay, I don't know if flipping upside down was quite what we intended, but game sorted itself out. Cool. It is pretty straightforward. Throw on more thrusters. And that will give you a little bit more control, which is pretty cool. So, chuck on a bunch. Let's chuck on heaps. Heaps of thrusters. You probably are unlikely to ever want to build this many yourself. And then that. And let's have a look. Should we put one on the front as well? Another one on the front is a good idea. Okay. Let's have a look how we go now. So, power consumption hasn't gone up greatly, but look how fast we stop and go sideways. Whoa, up to maximum kind of lateral velocity very quickly, which is pretty cool. So that's how you produce a really nimble craft. 2 directional thrusters in all the lateral directions, and you are good to go. Very fast. Not necessary to have 2. Does make it feel pretty damn nimble though. That is pretty great. Now you might be wondering what the effect is of having more engines on this thing, and I'm sad to report to you that that looks terrible. It does look terrible indeed. How many is that? 6 engines. Let's see what that does. Unfortunately, this is where we'll get a bit disappointed, because 6 engines will not make you go substantially faster. What it does do, there you go, we're about a meter a second faster. Wow. What it does do is increase power drain massively, but it can let you go from kind of 0 to maximum speed. Here we go, 3, 2, 1, go. 0 to maximum speed very quickly. I don't really think that's worth all the extra weight and fuel consumption, and it does get heavy. You definitely see how much we're sliding now. You definitely want to think about adding some more directional thrusters to slow yourself down and maneuver neatly. Whoa, come on. Oh yeah, slid right over those other vehicles. So lots of engines makes you go marginally faster and doesn't do much else for you at all, which is kind of a shame. So now I want to talk about hover engines. You can add extra hover engines to your craft. And I want you to just compare how we go up this hill now. Okay, struggling along here. It's quite challenging to get up. I'm not applying any boost, I'm just trying to go straight up the face of this thing. Let's compare that with how it goes when we attach more hover engines. So I'll stick a couple of hover engines on each side, just for the fun of it. And let's see what happens when we go up the hill this time. Take that external view, straight up the steepest part. So, yeah, I would like to think that this is maybe a touch quicker with extra hover engines, but I'm not convinced that is the case. It doesn't seem to add a great deal of benefit. You're welcome to experiment yourself, see if you come up with something better. So let's talk about directional thrusters now. I've put half a dozen directional thrusters on this thing now. They're all facing down. And unfortunately, basically do nothing useful at all, except increase power drain. I did have one bug out in a test where it would basically send your craft into orbit once you got to about half a dozen of them. Put half a dozen downwards facing thrusters on the vehicle. Ground vehicle would hop around like a frog, leaping over mountains, almost making it to orbit, getting really glitchy, and then you'd sort of send it back down to the ground by turning the power off, or leaping out of it and watching it fall. So yeah, downward facing thrusters, no need. Upward facing thrusters, again, no need on a ground vehicle. Just a waste of time. So what else can you put on a ground vehicle that is useful? I've got a few things here. The obvious ones are, oxygen tanks. If you put oxygen tanks on your ground vehicle, the ones for vehicles, little blue ones, then you'll be able to supply yourself with oxygen from within the craft using those tanks. So you won't use your suit oxygen. And that can be really helpful, because you will be able to travel further without having to return to base to fuel up. And if you do get low on oxygen when you're out digging or exploring, just hop back in your craft, get back home, jump in the oxygen machinery. You can also take advantage of a small constructor, which you should be familiar with from your crash vehicle, and the oxygen replenishing thingamabobby. So the small constructor, not that small, is it? We'll stick one there for good times. But of course, with that down, you can come up to it and do your normal constructing. Probably a good idea on any kind of vehicle that does mining, because you might want to take off and have it do all the laborious refining into blocks while you're out and about. And finally, of course, the oxygen station, familiar to all of us from the starting vehicle. And that almost certainly will not do the right thing. If you come up to your oxygen station and it's not sort of pointing at your chest, you might have trouble refueling your oxygen. So just keep that in mind. Try and keep this one vertical. So the other thing you might want to think about throwing on your vehicle is a fridge. Come here, fridge. Sit there. Nope. Just right there. And a storage vessel, like a container thing. The fridge will draw power, but what it does is preserve any food that you may put into it, so it doesn't spoil. Great if you're on hunting missions. And the cargo box will do what the name implies, hold things for you. Pretty straightforward. So that's all you need to know to get a basic ground vehicle running. You might want to get into tricking it out. There are obviously some little neat tricks you can use, like deploying lots of these hull boxes around the thing. Might want to leave a gap there for whatever reason. And there is also a color tool, and that lets you, as I click, I can see the color, and when I shift click, I can apply the color. If I just click, it'll cycle through. Yeah, and I can shift click to apply color to things. Where else have we got a bit of chance for color? Unfortunately, things like these thrusters remain stuck as grey blocks, so you probably want to put them internal. But all the other parts of the craft that are just whole blocks can be colorized. Yeah. Wow, what a beast. Looks pretty awesome if you ask me. That's all you need to know to get your basic vehicle up and running. But it does leave us with some interesting questions. For example, what about the other... Wow, almost got squished by it. What about the other hulls? So there are a few different, and I can show you in the creative menu, there are a few different cockpits you can use. And it feels like as they progress, they become more and more interesting to use. So the first one is enormous. Plop that down there. Yeah, it's huge. I don't really know why you'd want to use it. It looks a bit ugly. The next one is about the same, maybe a touch bigger. Yeah, and if you look into them, well, they look okay. Not the most amazing cockpits ever. Yeah, pretty much the same. This cockpit here, again, it's huge, but it looks a little bit more scenic, I guess. A little bit more attractive. This one here is one of the two most perhaps textured and fully featured looking, and the other one being the low slung cockpit that is on that ground vehicle and has been built into this one as well. So I prefer the really low slung one. Just feels more like a ground speeder, but of course you can build your vehicle around any of these. The final elements to talk about are the what are these? Sort of passenger seat boxes that you can mess with. So passenger seats. I don't know. Let's stick a passenger seat here. Great. T to enter as a passenger. And if I use Alt, Alt and moving the mouse doesn't even let you look around. It's kind of a shame. Never mind. Should we stick another one on? Why not? Wow, look at that. Any different? Much the same. We can turn the power on, I suppose. That'd be really annoying a passenger, wouldn't it? So they're turning the power on and off. Wee. Yeah, stop doing that, passenger. One of the last interesting elements to work with are these Gatling guns, which are very simply stuck somewhere on your vehicle. Let's stick one either side of the cockpit here. Okay, so these Gatling guns, whoops, don't need to open that container. They let you shoot stuff. Who would have thought? So now, crosshairs. Let's lower ourselves down a bit. With C. Yeah, take that, speeder. It will eventually chip away at this thing. You can see it's blew something up. Cool. But one of the problems you have is you don't have any vertical control of this gun. You got left and right, so if anything's higher or lower than you might be able to go up a little bit or down a little bit. But yeah, you don't have much chance of doing anything about it. In addition to this, you can throw on, and if I choose the ground vehicle tab here in creative, you can see there are other things that I can use: minigun turrets, rocket turrets, and plasma turrets. These are actually turrets. So what I mean by that is you need to no empty space. Come on, you can go up here. Yeah, stick it there. Yeah, one there. You need to actually have someone who is in them to make them work. You can't really control them from the driver's seat, which is a bit of a shame. Okay, look at that. What an amazing vehicle. So if I hop in this turret, nothing happens. And you're going, why isn't it working? Hop out. Hang on a sec. Oh, if the craft is powered on, that's when your turrets work. So hop out, get in here, and now I have rocket launcher turret. Pretty cool. Might be helpful for taking on those alien bases. Minigun turret. Don't know quite how you fit into this thing, but hey, you do. Yeah, nice. And finally, where is that plasma turret? This thing's a beast. Yeah, plasma turret. Just knocks blocks out of these things. Destroys the base. Really handily as well. Whoa! Yeah, hit something important there, I guess. So, when we hop out, all the turrets there. Yeah, so you could make yourself quite an awesome kind of, you know, turreted ground assault vehicle of some kind. Destroy all the wildlife and tower defenses for miles around, but you're going to need people to jump in them. Final thing to talk about is lights. Most effective lights, and I expect you are going to want to be out at night, is the light cube. Can be a bit bright during the day. I wish you could toggle them off. I haven't seen a key to do that. But when you power up, you can see lots of light. Lighty, lighty, lighty. And you generally, I figure, want to throw a couple of these on the front of all of your vehicles, just so that at night time you don't crash into mountains. Pretty helpful not to do that. Look, still got all those downward thrusters on that silly vehicle. Okay, well, I think that's all there is really to cover in this tutorial. Ground vehicles are pretty straightforward, but there's a couple of interesting little wrinkles to worry about. Just how many thrusters you place on them, stuff like that. Hope this has been helpful. I've been Tiny Pirate. I'll catch you in the next tutorial video. Have fun.